Hey, this is Stephen Amman. Welcome to my exorcism.io series. In the last video, I worked through the series exercise from the Ruby track. And so what I wanted to do briefly in this video was to unpack what's happening here inside of this map, this call to map here, this shorthand syntax. I know from a couple of comments I've gotten, this is something that was confusing to at least one or two of you, and I know this is something that confused me early on as I was learning Ruby, just understanding what in the world is happening here. It's just another piece of Ruby magic, right? Because Ruby has magic all over the place. So what I want to do is I want to explain it, I want to unpack it so that you can get your head around what's happening here and use it more confidently. It's obviously easier to write than the long form. Which, the long form, what would we do here? Well, we'd have our block that takes our element, which we would call a digit probably in this case, and we would just digit join, or digit, sorry, it's not that, it would be a series, wouldn't it? Or slice, each slice dot join. That's probably what we would do. And that's going to give us the same functionality. In fact, if I comment this out and run my tests, everybody's still happy and passes. So let's keep that up there as a model of what we're looking at. And I just want to start unpacking this. I'm going to get rid of these parentheses here. And first I want to show you that with this syntax here that some people call Pretzel Colon syntax, where you've got this ampersand followed by a symbol. It's really common. This is how you usually see it in a map or something like this. And what we actually have going on, we have two separate things going on. We have a unary ampersand and we have a symbol. A unary ampersand, one of the things it does is it converts between blocks, procs, and lambdas. Or really just between a block and a proc, or a proc or a lambda on that side of it, back and forth. So we can do things like, for instance, you may have seen it. Every method in Ruby has an implicit block that's passed to it that you can yield to inside of your method call, and then have the block do something, or you can yield an argument to it that it does things. I mean, that's how this long form is actually implemented and is working. But sometimes you want to have a handle to that block, so you can explicitly call it, or just have a handle to it in a method name. And so in that case, you might see this syntax inside of here, right, where we might say map as the final argument, and that gives you a handle to that block there. But it works the other direction too. So let's just keep going here, and I'm just going to keep putting versions of this that are a little bit more explicit in what's happening. So when you have the symbol here with this ampersand in this context here, you actually have an implicit to proc on the symbol as well. So what does that do? Well, if we look at the implementation of that, which I believe is now in C, but when it was in Ruby, it looked something like this. So what toProc on symbol actually does is it gives us a proc. I'm going to do it as a lambda, as a stabby lambda here in place. There are differences between procs and lambdas, but they're not important for the purpose of this explanation. But it's something you might want to go and read about at some point. But the proc that we get takes as its first argument whatever the element is that we're on in our iteration. So that would be a particular slice here, right? It also takes an optional set of arguments. And then inside of here, what it's going to do is it's going to take that element and send it our message from the symbol. So that's going to kind of unpack to this. Well, given what we know about pure object-oriented languages, technically we don't call methods or functions on objects. We send messages to objects that they know how to do something with, or they don't know how to do something with. So in a sense, slice.join is actually syntactic sugar for this, for sending the slice object the message, the symbol join. So we can actually convert this. Oh, and actually, hang on. It also takes any args here. Okay, that's really what we have here. But in our instance, map does not send any extra arguments, right? It's just the first one, so we can just get rid of those because we're not going to have them. But going back to what I was saying here about send, we can actually rewrite that as slice.join. And so now that we've got our proc that looks like this, what does the ampersand do with it? Well, it converts it to a block. So in the end, we can change this to a block. And look what we've got. We've got line 9 up here. So it's not literally going through all these steps, but this just sort of unpacks it for you so you can get your brain around all the things that are going on there when you separate those things out. So the question ultimately becomes, which of these two is easier to type? Which of these two is easier to understand, easier to read? Well, I mean, if you know the syntax, this is more concise, and to me it's pretty clear because I understand it. And hopefully now it's clear to you as well.